Like, poof, you're gone. Doesn't work like that. So what exactly does existence mean in this context? And there is one sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya 3, is actually two suttas, one after the other, that touch on this idea, what actually is meant by existence. But maybe before we look at that, maybe I'll just give you a general idea what it's about, because it's not that hard to understand what is going on. So we've just been talking about how when you crave things, it means that you take up things in the world, you kind of have certain strategies or certain ways to ensure that your craving are met. We start to live in a certain way by taking up various things. And according to all of those things that we take up, you are a Buddhist, you live a household life, or you are a monk perhaps, or whatever it is, according to all of that, your life takes a certain shape. You exist in a certain way, And this is what is meant by existence here. We exist in a certain way, depending on all of those things that we take up in life. That is what is meant by existence. How can you know what your existence is if you want to kind of investigate that? What is your, it may be kind of a bit abstract the way I'm saying it now. In a way, one way of getting a handle on your specific type of existence, what is where your mind kind of hangs out, what your mind is doing, is to just look at your mind in meditation practice. What are the things that come up? What are the things that you think about during meditation? This is a time you're supposed to relax and be at ease and just allow the mind to flow. And when the mind just flows like that, what actually are the things that you see? And what you will find is that that there will be certain themes that tend to recur in your meditation. You will think about your family, think about your job perhaps, how to solve certain problems, or you think about certain pleasures in life, and it will revolve around certain themes, and from that you will see what your existence actually is. These are the things that are important to you, these are the things that matter to you, these are the things in your life that actually you are holding on to, upadana, attachment, and that is actually your existence. Now, if you go to a higher level of existence, say that it talks just about here the sensual existence and then the form sphere existence. Form sphere existence is when you start to get into your meditation practice. How does that? What does that feel like when you meditate? And what it feels like is that basically, because you have gone beyond the world of the senses, beyond the world of sensuality, you're not interested in those things anymore. So you don't think about those things, You think about much less. In fact, if you come to that point, your mind tends to be quiet. So if your mind is very peaceful in meditation, it's a very good sign. It means that you have let go of a lot of that world of sensuality, and you are inclining much more towards the world of the mind, the world of form, the world of happiness and bliss and the jhana realms. You're already inclining to that. So if you are getting peace in your meditation, just peace, it's already a very good sign. Of course, it's not steady. It's not like you're always peaceful and always, thinking about things. Things vary a bit. So our existence is a bit like this. It's not kind of constant. We exist a little bit in one plane, a little bit in another plane. But we try to lift our existence up as much as possible. So we move towards a higher level of existence. Where the thing is, first of all, we think about things that are more wholesome. We think more about less about how many people we're going to murder. Think about less about that. That's kind of the first step. And then from thinking less bad things, you start thinking about just sensual pleasures perhaps instead. And then gradually let go of that too. Then you go to peace. Then from peace you go into the pleasures of the mind and the samadhi. From that you go even higher into even higher states of samadhi. In this way we're gradually lifting up our mind. We're lifting up our state of existence. We exist in a new way. So existence here means our mental world. In Buddhism, everything comes back to the mind. Everything comes back to experience. The world is experience. Because the world is experience, our existence has to do with our mental content, is what it really is all about. So that is what is meant by existence, and very similar to what we saw at the very beginning of dependent origination, where we're talking about delusion. Delusion then gives rise to all the sankharas. Sankharas, we do things. And we tend to do things within the realm where we exist. Those things that we are attached to, that is where we act. Yeah, we act within that sphere, so to speak. And then we do bad or good karma. And of course, the bad and good karma is then what decides kind of our level as well here. So it is where you are. It is your kind of your what you tend to think about, yeah, what kind of what you are attached to, and also the karma that you're making. Those two together will then decide your level of existence, so to speak. And then from then, it moves on to the next stage, which is rebirth. Let's see, have a look at this sutta and see how it is explained right here in this sutta called Existence, because it deals precisely with this problem. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to him, Bhante, it is said, existence, existence. In what way, Bhante, is there existence? If, Ananda, there were no karma ripening in the sensory realm, would sense sphere existence be discerned? No, Bhante. Thus, Ananda, for beings hindered by ignorance, fettered by craving, karma is the field, consciousness is the seed, and craving the moisture for their consciousness to be established in an inferior realm. In this way, there is production of renewed existence in the future. In other words, there is rebirth. Yeah, so if there is no karma, so this is like the existence in this life. Yeah, our mind is all kind of occupied with sensuality and sensual pleasures. So this is our existence in this life. And because we create karma within that realm, and that is what we are attached to, we can get reborn in the karma loka later on. Of course, the karma loka. Of course, the karma loka is very broad. Yeah, I mean, you can be reborn in the heavenly realm, or you can be reborn in a very painful realms, and that will all depend on the kind of karma you make. So there's a broad possibility there, but your general hangout, your general interest is in sensual pleasures, and then the karma will decide within that realm where you then get reborn. And you have this nice little formula here. This formula is really nice and very descriptive with metaphors for what actually is going on. Beings hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. We are all, ignorance or delusion is what blinds us. Yeah, we are hindered by it because we can't see clearly. It's as if we're walking around in the dark. The light isn't on. We don't know what's there. This is one of the metaphors the Buddha uses for ignorance or for a delusion in the suttas, is that we are in the dark. And then when you gain insight, it's as if someone is turning on the light. Wow, now I know what's going on. Yeah, before that we didn't know the right way. You can't know the right way if you're in the dark because you can't see what's going on. So it's like darkness. Yeah, and we don't even know we're in the dark. We think the lights are on in the room here, so we think it's light, but actually it's in the mind that the light really matters. So we are blind. And one of the beautiful little similes that I spoke about here last year, I haven't actually brought it out this year because you can only say so much, and that is the simile of the chick, yeah, the little chicken inside the egg. And when the chick is inside the egg, its world is so small, yeah, tiny world. You have the eggshell just around you, and if you, I don't know if you can see anything inside, but maybe you can see a little bit, and the world is just so tiny. And that is the world before you have insight, yeah? This is what it's like for most human beings before insight arises. And then one day the chick grows and it gets stronger, and then it uses its little beak and its little claws to make a hole in the eggshell, and eventually it escapes the eggshell. And the escaping the eggshell is like having insight for the first time, deep insight into the nature of existence, yeah? Understanding rebirth, understanding karma, understanding the ending of the asa, becoming an arahant. You poke through the eggshell. Wow! What a difference, yeah. What a difference between being stuck in this tiny little thing and then seeing the real world outside. The world is just so vast. There's so much stuff going on. Yeah, there's so many things happening out there. That is what insight is like. It's really dramatic, yeah. I mean, this is this kind of very, very dramatic difference. So when Buddha says, when you see rebirth, that's exactly what happens. It opens up a field, opens up a reality that is incredibly vast compared to the reality you were with before. Suddenly you view everything differently, and that enables you to act differently based on the new information, on the different understanding from what you had before. So this is what why we are hindered by avidya, ignorance, delusion. We're hindered because we haven't got a clue what's going on, basically. We are blind. And that's why the Buddha is called the eye of the world, because he sees, he passes on the information to us, and then enables us to practice in the same way because of his insight, because of his vision. So we are hindered by ignorance, and we are fettered by craving. Craving and ignorance, avidya and tanha, both of these terms are found in dependent origination at different places. We are fettered by craving. Craving binds us to the round of rebirth, because craving always propels us into the future. It moves us into the future, because craving is always about the future, about some state we want to fulfill sometime down the track, down the road. It always keeps us going, tied to samsara. So craving is what ties us, and this is such a massive problem. There's that beautiful sutta that I didn't mention this year, but which I mentioned last year here, and I usually mention all my retreats, and is the simile of the dog which goes to the butcher shop, and when the dog goes to the butcher shop, sitting outside, big eyes, trying to look very cute, so the butcher might chuck it some nice bones with meat on them, But the butcher isn't stupid. The butcher's not going to waste good meat on a dog. The butcher wants to sell his meat. So the butcher scrapes the bone as clean as possible, and then he looks at the dog, okay, you can have this bone, But there's nothing left on the bone except for a bit of blood. So the dog kind of licks the blood, but there's no satisfaction if you just lick a bit of blood. There's no meat there or anything like that. So the dog kind of still as much craving, still starving in exactly the same way, goes on to the next butcher shop. The next butcher is just as mean as the previous butcher, because this is kind of the. He has to be mean, otherwise the simile doesn't work. So there might be some nice butchers out there, but these butchers are really mean. So again, not all that mean. At least it throws out the bone, And still, again, the same thing. The dog just gets the taste of blood. No satisfaction, no fulfillment, no contentment, no completion, and it runs on and on and on, and it never stops to ask itself whether this is the right way to find happiness. It just keeps on going, being led by the craving, led by the promise of some kind of satisfaction down the line, craving always lying to it, saying, when you get there, when you get it, then you will be happy, never finding that happiness, moving on and on and on. And the point here is, of course, that human beings are a bit like that, always trying, running on to the next thing, from life to life to life, never stopping long enough to ask whether this is the right way to find satisfaction, to find contentment. You never find it. The hole inside is the same. The emptiness inside is the same. And then we keep on going like this. We are fettered by craving. Craving ties us down to samsara. Craving forces us to keep on running this round, never actually getting anywhere. It's a beautiful little combination there, but hindered by ignorance, fettered by craving. Kamma is the field, So the idea here is that you establish your mind, as I was saying before. Your mind is established in a certain level, depending on how you live your life, and that is like the field, because it's like the plane of existence in a sense becomes accessible to you. In that way, it is a field. That plane becomes accessible to you because you have made appropriate kamma for that to happen. So that's like the field, the sphere of existence. Consciousness is the seed, You get planted into that sphere. When the consciousness is at the appropriate kind of level, you get planted into that sphere. And craving is the moisture. So craving is what makes you continue to make good kamma, or make kamma, whatever, good or bad or whatever it is, and then drives you on, makes you continue on, so that you grow in that realm, and then you continue on with future realms as well later on. So, for beings to be reborn in the inferior realm is the kama loka, the world of sensuality. It is inferior because it has a lesser degree of happiness to it. That's why it's called inferior. Okay, if Ananda, there were no kama ripening in the form realms, these are the jhana realms, would form sphere existence be discerned? No, Bhante. Thus, Ananda, for beings hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving, Kamma is the field, consciousness the seed, craving the moisture for the consciousness to be established in the middling realm. In this way, there is production of renewed existence in the future. So now you make kamma that is appropriate for the jhanas. What is that kamma? It's basically just practicing the jhanas. That's what the kamma is. As you practice them, your consciousness get established there, in those realms. And this is called the middling realm. Yeah. So if you get to the jhanas, you are only in the middling realm. So it's pretty high, very high what they're talking about here. In this way, there is production of renewed existence in the future. That just means rebirth. That's all it means. It's a very, very complicated way of saying rebirth. And then we have the last one. If Ananda, there were no kamma ripening in the formless realm, would form sphere existence be discerned? No Bhante. Thus Ananda, for being hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving, kamma is the field, consciousness the seed, craving the moisture for the consciousness to be established in the superior realm. In this way, there is rebirth in the future. It is in this way, Ananda, that there is existence. So this is this famous Bhava Sutta. And you can see here, hopefully, how this kind of works and the meaning behind this. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so let us have a look at one more. That is all about bhava, existence, and how it ties in with all of these things. And let us have a look at one more sutta, the Leash Sutta. And it goes as follows. Bhikkhus, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discerned of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. So again, you have this idea of samsara being without discoverable beginning. Yeah, the word discoverable being the important one there. The first point is not discerned of beings roaming and wandering on. And I like this translation, the idea of roaming and wandering. In English, the word roam means like random movement, yeah? You don't really know where you're going. It's like going here, going there. You're roaming around and wandering around. And this is the interesting thing about samsaric existence. That's what it is. It is kind of random. Not actually going anywhere. There is no purpose. There is no aim. Yeah, all you do is you kind of go up and down between various rebirths, and you kind of go here and there. But actually, there is no conclusion. There is no final point or anywhere you actually go. You just keep on doing the same things again and again and again. And this is kind of the problem here. And the word roam brings this out in a very nice way here. It's a random movement, no purpose, no direction, yeah? And you can see after a while how this becomes very frustrating and pointless. What's the point of not going, of just going, but not going anywhere? It's kind of weird. And one of the reasons why it can be hard to fathom this is because in many ways our lives here and now, they seem to have meaning, yeah? They seem to have a point to them. Yeah, we feel that what we're doing is kind of going towards some goal or something. We feel that, when we're young, we go to university and we think, yeah, then I get a job, then I have a family, and this is going to happen, and that is going to happen, and it kind of, so it often feels like we have a goal. So it is almost the exact opposite what they're saying here. Our feelings say one thing, and the Buddha is saying almost the exact opposite of what our intuition tells us. But of course the problem is that a lot of those feelings that we have about the world, having a goal, having a purpose, having an aim, it is often just an illusion. Yeah. How much of a goal is there? Yes, we finish our education, but so what? Okay, so we have an education, and then later on we forget about everything we learned. Yeah. I'm supposed to be an engineer according to my education. I can't remember engineering at all. It's all gone out the window a long time ago. Yeah, I know a bit about Buddhism now, but down the line I'm probably going to forget about this as well. Yeah, you come down to visit Bodhinyana in 20 years' time, I might have Alzheimer's, I've forgotten absolutely everything. And This is how things are, yeah. We learn it, and then it doesn't actually, but where does that actually lead? And even if you, with Buddhism, it's a bit different, but with all these other worldly things, where does it actually get you at the end of the day? Maybe you have studied engineering 1,000 times before, and you still have to study it in this life because you forgot it in the meantime. There's no real goal there. There's no real purpose. Yes, you have a family, so you look after your kids, and they become good kids, and they kind of live well. But and then what? Then they raise their own kids in exactly the same way, and they become good kids, and they raise their kids again in the same way, and on it goes like that for million generations. But it's not actually going anywhere. It's just each generation kind of doing the same thing, continuing on the same thing. All of these things are just illusions. In the big picture of things, there isn't any real goal. Not actually getting anywhere. Nothing is really happening. So, what this means is that we start to kind of change our outlook. We start to do things that actually do have a real goal. And those things that do have a real goal are those things that are more lasting. We talked about this already. More lasting, in other words, things that actually, when you are born over here, you're born maybe at a certain level of happiness or contentment or wisdom. When you die, you try to be a bit more wiser. Yeah, if you are wiser when you die, if you're more content and happy when you die, then you have made a real change. You have actually moved towards some kind of purpose. And if you keep on building up that wisdom and building up those qualities of mind over long enough period of time, eventually you will have to get to the goal, the highest point, the highest wisdom, which of course is Nibbana according to Buddhism. So from that point of view, there is a real goal. But in ordinary worldly existence, there isn't any real goal. Yeah, and this is kind of, I think, one of the desperate things about seeing our past lives, because that is when that becomes incredibly clear, that there is no real goal. Because we're just doing the same things, roughly, not exactly, variations on a theme, again and again and again and again. And then you start to feel, oh, enough of this. So this idea of roaming is actually quite nice, and it kind of describes very well what is happening in Buddhism. So if you feel that your life is moving forward in a sense of kindness and wisdom and meditation, then you are really starting to lead a meaningful life. That is the only meaning there really is from a Buddhist point of view. Anyway, again, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving here. Suppose, bhikkhus, a dog tied up on a leash was bound to a strong post or pillar. If it walks close to that post or pillar. If it stands close to that post or pillar. If it sits down close to that post or pillar. If it lies down close to that post or pillar. So too, bhikkhus, the uninstructed worldling regards form thus. This is rupa. This is mine. This I am. This is myself. He regards feelings in the same way. This is mine. This I am. This is myself. He regards perception in that way. He regards intentional activities. These are mine. I am these. These are myself. He regards consciousness in this way. This is mine. This I am. This is myself. If he walks close to those 5 aggregates subject to clinging. If he stands close to those 5 personality factors subject to clinging. If he sits down close to those 5 personality factors subject to clinging. If he lies down close to those 5 personality factors subject to clinging. So this is part of what it means to be bound. Yeah, you're bound by craving. You crave for these things. You crave for these 5 khandhas. And because you crave for them, because you have taken them up, you are attached to them. Because you are attached to them, you're always close to them. They're always with you, almost coming along. Yeah, just like the dog that is bound to the pillar. You are bound. Most people are bound to the 5 aggregates, the 5 khandhas, in exactly that way. This is mine. If you take something to be yours, this I am, then you are attached to it. Yeah, this is your identity. You can't let go of your identity, because it's the whole point of having an identity, is that you identify with it. This is me, and because you think of it as me, you can't let go of it. Yeah, if somebody challenges you and kind of they want to take away an aspect that you identify with, then you are going to fight for that, because that is your very essence, who you are, and you will be destroyed if that is taken away. Because you don't want to be destroyed, because you want to exist, you are going to fight for that. So whenever your identity is challenged, that is when attachment and craving shows itself. And this is what the Buddha is saying here. That attachment and craving is always in the 5 khandhas. So you're always close to these things. This is why it is so useful to do meditation practice. Yeah, one of those things that you see in meditation, which is so freeing and so liberating. Yeah, you're seeing that the 5 khandhas are disappearing, the 5 khandhas are becoming less. Yeah, the body is disappearing, the senses are going away, the breath is gradually disappearing. All of these things are going. The 5 khandhas are becoming less, and you see, yay, happy. Yeah, less khandhas, more happiness. More khandhas, less happiness, more dukkha. So you start, and this is kind of one of those great little insights you start to get in meditation practice. So you hold on to these things a little bit less. I'm just trying to make it a little bit less abstract, because if it's too abstract, it's hard to relate to her. Therefore, bhikkhus, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by greed, anger, and confusion. Through the defilement of the mind's beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So here, the idea is presumably simply that, if when you understand this problem of defilements in the mind, this is what stops you from having insight, what stops you from attaining samadhi and all of these kind of things. So you understand the importance of purifying your mind. Only then are you going to be able to break this problem, get out of this problem that is actually the Buddha is talking about here. Bhikkhus, have you seen the picture called faring on? Yes, Venerable Sir, even that picture called faring on has been designed in its diversity by the mind, yet the mind is even more diverse than the picture called faring on. Not sure what that means. Some kind of painting, perhaps some kind of art. Yeah, all the art in the world. Where does it come from? It comes from the mind. It's all been created by the mind. So the mind is greater, more powerful, has even more to it than all the art that we can see in the world. That's essentially what it comes down to. The mind is very diverse, and then it drives us in its various directions. Therefore, bhikkhus, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by greed, anger, and confusion. Through defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Bhikkhus, I do not see any other order of living beings so diversified as those in the animal realm. Even those beings in the animal realm have been diversified by the mind, yet the mind is even more diverse than the beings in the animal realm. Yeah, you get reborn in the animal realm. Why? Because your mind is actually what creates that. Yeah, if you want to become if you become a dog. If I become maybe I don't know if anyone here becomes a dog. Some people probably become dogs in the next life. Yeah, why is that? Because they have created the dog mind, presumably. Yeah. You know that sutta with the dog mind sutta, Kukkaravattika sutta. Some of you would know that one. Yeah, and there's a sutta where these two ascetics. This is India for you. India, a very exciting country. All this exciting stuff happening in India. And this is the dog duty ascetic, yeah, the Kukkaravattika Sutta. And the dog duty ascetic is the one who practices like a dog. So this dog duty ascetic walks around on four, walks around on your arms. You eat from the ground. When you sleep at night, you kind of curl up like a dog, and when you sleep at night. And then this dog, there was an ox duty ascetic. He was practicing the ox practice. Yeah, that was his friend. The dog duty ascetic and the ox, they were friends, and they were kind of wandering around together. Yeah. So he does everything that an ox does. And then they go to the Buddha, and then they ask the Buddha, what is going to happen to us? We're practicing this dog duty. It's really hard to practice the dog duty, really difficult. And we think if we practice this, we will go to heaven as a result of this. It's kind of strange. Why would that take you to heaven if you practice like a dog? I don't know what the logic is there, but that's kind of how some of these kind of religions work. Yeah, And so they go to the Buddha, and the Buddha says, don't ask that question. You don't want to know the answer. Don't ask the question. Please, we want to know the answer. Don't ask that question. And eventually the Buddha says, okay, I told you not to ask the questions, but I will tell, since you are so persistent, I will tell you the answer. And then the Buddha says, well, there's two outcomes, two possibilities of the practice in the dog duty ascetic. Either, if your practice kind of fails, if it fails, you go to hell. You get reborn in the hell realm because of this. If the practice is successful, you get reborn as a dog. And then the dog, it starts to cry. He doesn't want to be reborn as a dog. That's not why he's doing the dog duty thing. And he starts to, and the Buddha says, I told you not to ask that question. It's going to be painful. And then he actually says, well, actually, I'm very grateful for you to tell me the answer, because that means I can kind of, relax a little bit on the dog duty here. He doesn't say that, but that's what I'm saying. So, and then the same thing for the ox duty ascetic. And what the Buddha says is that the reason why you get reborn as a dog is because you're doing everything like a dog. You are training your mind to be like a dog's mind. And if you have the dog's mind, well, that's exactly what it means. You become a dog. It's like the level of consciousness again. The consciousness has different levels, but it also has different kind of qualities to it. And the qualities can be like a dog quality, or it can be the dinosaur quality. It can be reborn as a dinosaur, or it has the elephant quality, or maybe if you're really low, maybe you have the cockroach quality in your mind. That wouldn't be very nice, would it? But somebody must have that, otherwise nobody will get reborn as a cockroach. So imagine that life of a cockroach would be terrible. People are chasing you all the time, trying to kill you. What an awful existence. 1 second, I'll get back to you. So this is the mind. We create the mind in this life straight away, and the qualities of the mind that we have now, those are the qualities that will then decide where we get reborn in the future. So we actually create the dog mind. We create those minds. So be careful with the kind of mind you create. Create the Deva mind. Have the Deva mind inside of you. If you have the Deva mind inside of you, then you are in business. You're kind of heading in the right direction. So be like Devas. This is one of the nice things about coming to Buddhist centers. You look around and you realize most of the people around you, they are a bit like Devas. This is kind of the nice thing here. Is there in the present day? Yeah. Okay, there you are. It's a bit sad, isn't it? A bit kind of a
because they are Buddhist monks, but the rationale is that because they said that they don't have any craving, so every afternoon they go out on the field and they actually
really?
Like a dog, which is really scary. And then they even boast that they can eat shit because they don't have any more craving in the world.
Okay.
So that they can become like enlightened. Or escape from this essence.
Have you shown them this sutta?
I did not meet them, but they are very famous.
Okay.
Everybody really scored this kind of practice. Very few people know what is sutta.
Okay, and they are Buddhist. They're Buddhist monks. That's really getting things wrong, isn't it? As a Buddhist monk, that's terrible. Okay, I'm sure in India also you can probably find these kind of people still today, because in India there's everything. You go to India, there's all kind of ascetics. So but that's very interesting. Thanks for making that point. But anyway, sorry, it was your. I think she was first.
I just wanted to ask, what's your profession? Is a trainer, animal trainer?
No. If you're asking the question, if you are an animal trainer, will you be reborn in that realm? And not at all, because it depends on why you are an animal trainer and how you do it. But if you are, as an animal trainer, you have so much opportunity to be kind to the animals, to do the right thing and to help them in a sense. So you're making good karma. You can make so much good karma by being an animal trainer here. It's only if you really want to become that animal, that's when you have a problem here. Yes?
Some of the vegetarians' book are published by some Mayana center. Besides not practicing non-killing, they say they're vegetarians, even vegan. But one page of the book says if you eat chicken, next night you become chicken.
Okay.
But you never eat elephant, you don't become elephant.
Okay.
That is very scary.
So if you eat vegetables, you become vegetable the next life. And sometimes they become vegetable even before that. But no, I think this has got nothing to do with Buddhism. Yeah, nothing to do with the word of the Buddha. The Buddha ate meat. Yeah, the Buddha ate meat. If the Buddha ate meat, well, this it can't be so problematic. I think being vegetarian is great. If you want to be a vegetarian, it's a wonderful thing. I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a positive thing, but it's not really 100% required from the suttas. So if you want to eat meat, you can do that as well. Yeah. So this is kind of way outside. This must be some kind of Mahayana thing that someone else wrote. Yeah, someone else who long time after the Buddha. Okay. So that is the animal realm. Yeah, how diverse the animal realm is, and we kind of create this realm by ensuring that we get reborn there, because our minds are so incredibly creative and they make all of these things happen. Therefore, bhikkhus, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, the mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, or by desire, ill will, and confusion. Through the defilements of mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Suppose, bhikkhus, an artist or a painter using dye or lac or turmeric or indigo or crimson, these are just various colors, would create a figure of a man or a woman, complete in all its features, on a well-polished plank, wall or canvas. So too, when the uninstructed worldling produces anything, it is only form that they produce, only feeling that they produce, only perception that they produce, only volitional formations that they produce, only consciousness that they produce. Yeah, it's almost like you're being an artist. Yeah, you will create ourselves. Just like the painter paints a figure of a person. Yeah, you paint a figure of a person, and you paint it nicely or you paint it badly. In the same way, we create ourselves in the future. Yeah, you're creating. This is what we're doing through this practice, and by living well, you create a good self, a good kind of person for the future. So the mind is the creative activity. That's why sankharas, they are the creative force that bring about all of these kind of things. Sankara, Pali literally means, as I said before, creation, putting together, assembling things. And this is what is happening here. What do you think, bhikkhus? Is form, is it nitya or anicca? Is it permanent or impermanent? Is it reliable or unreliable? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. And then the question next question is, if that which is impermanent, is that suffering or is it happiness? And the answer is, well, that which is impermanent, that which is unreliable, is suffering. That which is impermanent, subject to change and suffering, is that suitable to be taken as a self? And the answer, of course, is no. Yeah, because a self is something that needs to be stable. And then the Buddha goes through all the 5 khandhas in this way, yeah? And then at the very end, when he goes through the khandha in this way, seeing thus, I should have gotten all the parts of this sutta, I didn't look at it carefully enough. Seeing thus, he understands there's no more for this state of being. So seeing this, you then become revolted, you feel revulsion, you feel disenchantment with the whole world, because you see that all the things that you thought were permanent, all the things you thought you could hold on to, you cannot hold on to after all. So you become repelled by that. You see it as dukkha. And this is kind of, these things are very hard to understand because these things are very profound. But the point here is that when you see dukkha clearly, when you see suffering, the mind must turn away from that. It is like the old simile that I like to use, when you have a hot plate, you have a hot plate in your house, and you don't know that somebody else has turned it on, so you don't know it's hot. So you put your hand on it by accident. If you put your hand on the hot plate by accident, what happens? Do you think, should I take my hand away or should I not? Is that what you think? No need to think, It just automatic reaction. You just take it away straight away, because you know you're going to burn yourself really badly. If even 1 second might be enough to burn yourself. And this is the reaction of the mind. The mind is like this. When you see dukkha, when you see the problem of existence, you see what actually really is going on. This is again very profound here. These are really high levels of insight. Yeah, when you see that, the mind turns away automatically. It can't bear it anymore. So you are repelled by it, just like the hand is repelled from the plate, drawn back. The mind withdraws, from this problem. I think the symbol in the Sutta is like a feather. When you put a feather towards the fire, the feather tends to kind of curve back, away from the fire. And the same thing, the mind withdraws. And when the mind withdraws like that, this is kind of the initial reaction you have. And then from that, the craving stops. The craving is undermined. You keep on withdrawing. Eventually, craving is completely undermined, and you have dispassion, no more craving. Because how can you crave for suffering? Yeah, this is kind of the thing. If you see that suffering, you can't crave for it anymore. You have to turn back. And this shows you what I was talking about before, that the way the Buddha looks at the world, the way the Aryans look at the world, is the opposite from how ordinary people look at the world. Because you are seeing all experience is suffering. How is that possible? How does that make any sense? Yeah, we know we experience happiness. Yeah, sometimes we feel joyful, sometimes we feel happy. What do you mean that's all suffering? And this is kind of the viewpoint of the Buddha, when you stand above it all and you know that there is an even higher happiness, something even beyond, then all experience that you have actually starts to look this way. It's a very high, lofty, bird's eye, eagle point of view, looking down on the landscape, seeing what's happening here. Your craving for existence can no longer exist, because how can you crave for suffering? Nobody craves for suffering. We all crave for happiness. So craving is destroyed. You know that actually craving is not going to give you happiness anyway, so craving is completely destroyed. And then you are liberated, as it says here. That is where freedom comes from as a consequence of that. There is no more for this state of being. There is no more existence, in other words. No more, nothing more is happening after this. The end has achieved. The highest happiness has been achieved on this basis. This is what the Buddha is saying here. And it's a very profound sutta, actually. But it kind of drives home the point of what this is all about. So, there you are. That is that sutta. And now the next thing after this, we're going to move on to the very last part of dependent origination. Then I'm going to summarize the whole thing at the end. The next thing is how existence is the condition for rebirth, etc. But I think I want to break there, because otherwise it's just going to be too much. I don't want to kind of go too far here. So is there anything else that we need to... Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah.
So, from my point of view, I mean, sometimes when you read things, see and you try to understand them, especially perhaps some of the metaphysical things that are mentioned in the suttas, I have problems sometimes reconciling as to how this could be possible, or how certain things could actually be what they are supposed to be. They're said in the Sutta. So I'm just wondering how you, as a learned monk who's done a lot of reading and study and stuff, how do you determine for yourself what is reliable versus what is not reliable?
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, that's a good point. One of the first things is that what is metaphysical for one person is not necessarily metaphysical for someone else. By metaphysics, we basically usually means like speculation. Yeah, we mean speculation about the world. We mean ideas. We mean theories about the world. We don't mean knowledge about the world. Metaphysics is one thing, and direct insight or experience something else. This is what you mean there by metaphysics, I would say. So very often people would say, for example, that the idea of rebirth is a metaphysical view. Yeah, it is a view that that someone in the past somehow came up with, and then it became a view. But from a Buddhist point of view, it's not metaphysical at all. From a Buddhist point of view, the idea of rebirth is something you have direct insight into. It is actually experienceable. You can know whether there is such a thing as rebirth or not. So one of the things that you have to be very careful when you read the Sutta and not assume that these things are just theories, these things are just ideas that are there, that kind of come with the culture or whatever, because sometimes you can go wrong if you do that. Precisely because this is a inside teaching, it comes from the Buddha, you should assume that there are going to be things in there which are beyond the ordinary understanding of human beings. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worthwhile. If it was just the same thing as we have in society already, it wouldn't be worthwhile. The teachings wouldn't be adding anything new. The fact that they add something new is precisely what makes them interesting. That's what makes Buddhism interesting. So we should expect a few things like that to be in the suttas. So how do we know what is important and what is not important? How do we there may very well be some metaphysical claims in the suttas, as you say, because often there is like a trace of the pre-existing culture, for example, that is a remnant that is carried on in the suttas. Sometimes you see the names of some of the gods, for example. Some of those names are exactly the same gods that you find also in the Indian culture that existed at that time. So you read some of the Upanishads, the Brahmanical suttas and all these things, and you realize there's a strong connection between those Brahmanical suttas and what you find in the Buddhist suttas. And so that is one way of doing it, to filter out, is to look at the existing tradition and to see what has kind of crept into the suttas from the existing tradition. It isn't much, it's not much at all, but there are a few little things like that have crept in from the past. And those things you can kind of say, okay, this is probably like an elaboration, that has kind of contaminated the sayings of the Buddha over time. Usually, if there are such contaminations, there will be things that are kind of one-off in the suttas. It happens in one place or two places or three places, yeah? They're not things, they're not main themes in the suttas are never really contaminations, because they wouldn't be able to make their way in such a broad, broad-based sense. So one of the things that you see, and one of the things that are reliable in the suttas, are those things that you see again and again and again, spoken by the Buddha in different contexts to different people with slightly different angles. Yeah, those are the things that are the most reliable. Don't take your stand in the suttas about kind of one-off sayings or one-off things and think that you're going to kind of come up with an entirely new theory about what the Dhamma is about based on kind of little things like that. This is the first point, and this point is very much reinforced by the idea of what I call comparative study. Comparative study has become very large over the last, not large, but there are some monks who are doing this quite a lot over the last 20, 30 years. Really good, very high scholarship by these monks. And what comparative scholarship means, you compare the suttas in the different languages. The suttas exist in Pali. Many of them exist in ancient Chinese. This is a Chinese from about 1,500 years ago. Some of them exist in Tibetan language. Some of them exist in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit was the language of India. Some of them exist in other minor Indian languages like Gandhari, Tocharian. It is a Central Asian language. What else? What else are the names of some of these languages? They have some really cool names. Tocharian is quite a cool name. Central Indian language. What else are there? Languages that are used. There's a number of minor languages like that where you find one or two suttas. So what you do is, because we know that the suttas started to spread apart around the time of Ashoka, as I was explaining before, we know that these have existed apart for a very, very long period of time. So put them together and you see what they have in common. You actually filter out a lot of additions and corruptions that happened after that time, And what you find, this is kind of the interesting thing, those things that I just mentioned before, that you see again and again in the suttas, core aspects of Buddhism, they are found across the board and almost in exactly the same wording. So focus on that. Focus on what I said before, the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the 37 aids to awakening, core Dhamma. Focus on the Noble Eightfold Path. Dependent origination, guaranteed to be early Buddhism. Gradual training, which I taught here last year, very beautiful training, shows you how the path progresses from the beginning all the way to the end. All of these things are essential core aspects of the teachings. That is how you kind of get back to what is the most original and the most basic. And that is where I place my confidence and faith in these teachings. And if you do that, you're never going to go far wrong. But even if you just take the 4 Nikayas, Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, and Anguttara Nikaya, long discourses, middle-length discourses, connected discourses, numerical discourses, if you take that as your Buddhism, as your teachings, again, you're not going to go very far wrong. There may be that there are some minor things there which are not kind of 100% kosher or suitable or real Buddhism, but it's going to be very, very minor. You're not going to go basically you get the real teachings by doing that, especially if you take on board those things you see again and again in there. Are you happy with that? Yeah? Okay. So, okay, anything else? Okay, I think Lai would like us all to go down and have a pictures. Maybe we have a quick toilet break, Lai, is that okay? Can we have that? Yeah, thank you very much. That's very compassionate. So let's do that and then let's go. Is it the next level downstairs? 1 level down, is that right? Where is that? 2 level down.